Hi everyone, my name is Mari and I'm an engineer on the Azure Functions team. In this video, I'm going to be talking about cron jobs and timers in serverless. A cron job is a Linux command that is used for scheduling tasks to be executed sometime in the future. Timer triggers are what we use in Azure Functions to create functions that run on a schedule. Cron jobs in Azure Functions are called timer-triggered functions. Conceptually, they're pretty much the same. Timer-triggered functions are great for automation. You can write functions that clean up resources, start and stop VMs on a schedule, create recurring notifications or resources, sync resources in off hours, implement a polling service, or help it with ETL pipelines. When you think about serverless, you probably think about near infinite autoscale and bursty, unpredictable load. So how does a regularly scheduled function fit into this picture? The first immediate benefit from serverless timer functions is that functions are billed per use. You only have to pay for the compute power while your function is executing. If you have a job that runs once a day, you won't have to pay for all that time that the function is waiting idly by. The second benefit of using Azure Functions for a scheduled job is that the programming model makes it really easy to use. You don't have to go and implement your own timer and deal with all the concerns of trying to implement something that will continue working on a schedule, even in the face of failures. Let's see what this actually looks like in code. In this demo, I'll be running a timer-triggered function to monitor the health of some API endpoint. Through this demo, I mainly want to show you what a timer-triggered function looks like so that you can write your own. A fundamental part of a timer-triggered function that every timer function has is this timer trigger type binding definition in function.json. This file was created using the Azure Functions VS Code extension when creating a new function. My function is scheduled to run according to this cron expression. The expected cron expression has 6 components corresponding to second, minute, hour, day, month, and day of week. I'll cover what the numbers, slashes, and asterisks mean later in this video, but the way to read this schedule is that it runs every 5 seconds. My function code that will run every 5 seconds just pings an endpoint, measures the time taken in that call, and then logs that time. It also logs if there are any 500 status codes. I'm going to run this with funcstart, although I could also run this by pressing F5. One thing that I did before having this actually run was to add in local.settings.json a connection string for Azure Web Job Storage. This connection string is a connection string to an Azure Storage account, which is required to use timer-triggered functions. Now that my function is up and running, and it's struggling a bit because of all of the recording that is happening on my laptop, but you can see that it is running every 5 seconds, and it is measuring the time taken for that call to the endpoint. There's more I could do with this health checker function to use this data I'm now gathering. For example, I could build alerting on top of the logs from this function that get pushed to application insights. I'll leave that for another time though. One last thing that I want to show you is that serverless timer triggers execute as singletons, meaning that for a single timer, you will never have 2 overlapping executions. So if my timer here is configured to run every second, but my function code takes 5 seconds, I'll only see one function execution every 5 seconds. Here I have this code here that is sleeping for 5 seconds, and then in my function JSON, this *1 means that it's executing every single second. Now let's watch it run, and it's only executing every 5 seconds, even though my configuration says 1 second, because those previous executions are overlapping into the next one's time. This can be helpful if your executions are modifying the same external resource. For example, if you need to get around this behavior though, you can with durable functions. Like I mentioned earlier in the demo, those 6 components for a CRON expression that will define the schedule have different types thrown in there, like numbers, slashes, and stars. I'm going to leave this chart out there, and I won't go through each of these in detail, but you can pause this video and read through it. There's also information and documentation available on the official Azure Functions docs for timer triggers. From this video, I hope that you took away that serverless timer-triggered functions are easy to use and they are powerful for any automation that you need to do. Thank you so much for watching, and check out some of the links below.